In life, challenges will always come our way. Now, we are not defined by the challenges that we face, but really by the way we handle those challenges. You are absolutely going to love my next guest. Let's meet her.
Welcome to another segment of Building a Legacy That Counts, where we look to empower the youth. My name is Akusika, and today I get to sit down with a lady called Grace. I think she's a walking testimony, and you guys will understand why. Welcome, Grace.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for sitting down with me. You know what? This interview for me is going to be a personal one because I had a brother who had sickle cell, and he went through a lot. However, even though the disease was really close to me, I just felt like I was never privy to information about what he was going through, mainly because he just wanted to live life. You know, he did not want to be tagged as somebody who was a sickler. He did not want to be known as he was associated with a disease. So for him, it was more like, let's not talk about it. I'm great. I'm fine. And so sometimes I feel a little guilty because I just feel like I just never knew a lot about the disease. And so just thank you for accepting to sit with me because I feel like I am going to get educated today.
I'm gonna do my best. But you know, it's definitely not uncommon. Mm-hmm. And I was there for a long time where I didn't talk about the disease. A lot of people who have this disease, who even have the trait, they don't talk about it.
And you know what? I do have the trait. I don't have the full-blown sickle cell, but I have the trait.
Oh, okay.
I don't have any side effects that I'm aware of, but yeah, I hear an individual that has the full-blown, disease goes through a lot. And you don't look like what you go through, which is amazing.
You know what? All glory to God.
Uh-huh.
Let me say that right now. All glory to God.
And that's what I mean by you are a walking testimony.
Thank you. My parents always say, we named you Grace because we knew it was going to take the grace of God to raise you.
Well, you are living your name.
Yes, yeah. I am.
That's incredible. So tell us a little bit about yourself before we dive into it.
Okay, well, like she said, my name is Grace. I'm Nigerian, born in America, but still very in touch with my African roots. I have an amazing husband. And I have a little daughter named Naomi, who is in my world. They both are. Currently, I am a stay-at-home mom, but I do have my undergrad, my BA in special education, which I was teaching for a couple years. Mm-hmm. And then I went back to get my master's. By the time I finished my master's in social work, I was already pregnant with my daughter. So I don't know. I never got to use my degree because we thought it would be best for me to be a stay-at-home mom, which I'm so grateful for. I really do enjoy being able to be there and, see her milestones. And also it makes me be able to focus on my health. When I was working and teaching, it was hard between grad school and teaching and lesson plans and everything that was going on. It was hard for me to stay on top of my doctor's appointments and my medicine and blood transfusions and everything that comes along with having sickle cell. So it was hard while I was working, but I think we made the best decision for our family. Ultimately, the goal is for me to stay healthy. So I think we're doing a good job.
Exactly.
I also, currently I am a full-time influencer. I'm growing my brand and I do have a self-titled blog.
Very nice. Very nice. So we'll get to the blog, but can you tell me what exactly is sickle cell?
So,
and when were you diagnosed with sickle cell anemia?
So sickle cell is a blood disorder. It's where the red blood cells that most people have are almost shaped like an oval. Mm-hmm. And, it's round and it's flexible, Whereas with sickle cell, our blood cells are shaped like a crescent, or like, I like to say kind of like a hook, like a crescent
Ah.
moon, or think of like a banana, and they get stuck in the blood vessels. So when that happens, it causes a bunch of complications. One of the more popular ones is a sickle cell crisis. So they don't
Mhm.
flow through the body as well as the round, regular blood cells, leading and causing, like I said, a bunch of different problems. I want to say I was diagnosed at birth, or maybe, I don't
Ah,
know how
okay.
things were back then, maybe even
Mhm.
before, because they knew there was a possibility. I am the last born of my parents. So my older sister, she doesn't have the trait, and she doesn't have the disease. My older brother, who's the middle sibling, he has the disease. And then I came along, grace, the grace of God. I also have the disease. So I'm not the only one in my family who has the disease. Me and my brother do.
Ah, how is your brother doing?
He's good. He's
He's good.
good. He's a mental health professional as well.
Very nice.
He's actually working, unlike me.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
really awesome. It looks like a little bit of your grace trickled to him, huh?
Yes, yes, yes.
You talked about the crisis. What exactly is the sickle cell crisis, and what kind of medical care do you require?
So with the sickle cell crisis, whew, what's the best way to explain it? The best way to explain a sickle cell crisis, I would say, well, it occurs when the red blood cells get stuck, causing
Mhm.
significant amounts of pain. Some people will describe it as, I wouldn't say an aching, almost, if I want to be graphic so I can really explain to you,
Mhm.
sometimes I say it feels like my skin is being like pulled off of my body, or that instead
Ooh.
of blood flowing through my veins, there's actually like glass inside my body that's flowing. It's extremely painful. And I think what is so bad about a crisis is you don't know when, you don't always, because sometimes you could tell, you don't always know when one is coming. You can be fine 1 minute, and then the next minute a sickle cell crisis will happen. And that's the, I want to say, the scary part, or the uncertainty of it all, is
Mhm.
what I guess bothers a lot of people who have sickle cell, because we have kids to raise, we have jobs, we have speaking engagements, we have all types of
Mhm.
different things going on in our
Mhm.
lives. And if what happens if a sickle cell crisis happens?
Yeah.
Like, my husband's home today, but what if it's a day he has to work, and God forbid I fall into a sickle cell crisis and my daughter's still at school, and it's so bad that I can't pick her up from school? What do I do then? That's why I always tell people who have sickle cell, it's so good and so important to have some type of support system. So if you're
Mhm.
married, your spouse, um, your siblings, your parents, a friend, something, some type of support system.
Wow.
Yeah.
I am so sorry you have to go through that. So do you literally find yourself in bed? Do you have to be rushed to the hospital? What does it look
Depending. It's sometimes some crisis, and also I think also because now I'm a mom,
like?
I
Mm-hmm.
try to work through my minor ones. Before, when I would have little minor crisis, I would be able to spend the whole day sleeping, or um, be medicated and stay in bed. But now that I'm a mom, I kind of have to work through my crisis. If it's a minor one, the more severe ones, oh my gosh, almost immediately I'm going to the the emergency room. Very reluctant now to do that because of everything that's
Mm-hmm.
going on in
Exactly,
2020.
exactly.
So with my health, my hematologist, we're making sure that that doesn't happen. So with my hemoglobin, if my hemoglobin is drops, she's more willing to give me a blood transfusion, which will help prevent a sickle cell crisis than normal. Sometimes before COVID and everything, she would be reluctant to kind of just be like, all right, let's wait and see it out.
Mm-hmm.
But now she wants to just keep me out of the hospital completely. I mean, of course she wants to keep me out the hospital,
Of course.
right? But now we're very
Yeah.
proactive about, not going to the hospital because of
Mm-hmm.
everything.
Yeah, because it's considered an underlying issue, so you want to make sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the treatments that happen when you do have a sickle cell crisis, it's all on a spectrum. So sometimes Motrin is always my go-to, because then as you get into stronger pain meds such as Percocet, those things start to make you tired, and then they have more adverse effects. So you have like Motrin, then you have like Percocet 5, Percocet 10, stronger Percocet. And then once those don't work, then you have to start considering to possibly go to the hospital. And then the medicine they give you there, forget about it. Forget about it.
It just knocks you out.
Yes, there's times that I'm like on the phone, maybe with my sister because she lives in another state, and she'll be like, I'll call you back or we'll talk later because I'm completely out of it. You'll feel like you slept a whole week when it's only been like a day or a couple of hours. It really knocks you out. One of the main things that they say with sickle cell is to remain hydrated. It helps those sickled cells in the blood to flow, and once you stay hydrated, it helps the blood cells flow better because of the water.
Got it. So is the crisis different for a female versus a male?
Good question. I think that not really.
Not really. Okay.
People have different body parts, but from what I've talked to my brother about, we kind of get them in the same area. Everybody's different. So sometimes for me, my crisis is usually in the back, the hips, and the knees. So those are usually where it starts first, and then sometimes it could just end up being generalized, meaning like all over the body. Right. Sometimes I get it like in my jaw too, or sometimes I notice it in my jaw first, and I'm like, okay, I'm feeling a little something in my jaw. Let me go ahead and take
coming up.
Yeah. So let me go ahead and take Motrin and hydrate a little bit more. We have to be more cautious of temperatures. If it's too cold, that's a really big trigger for a sickle cell crisis. If it's too hot, that's a little trigger for a sickle cell crisis. And people always think, oh, it's just cold. It's just a cold weather. I know growing up, my mom would always say, dress warm, dress warm. But I've also noticed as I'm growing older that the heat too, if it's too hot, it can trigger as well.
Exactly. Because my brother lived in Canada, and he lived in, a really cold state. And eventually he had to go back to Ghana because they said the cold was too much. Yeah. But then the doctors also in Ghana thought, you know what, he should have been in Canada because it's too hot. So I can totally
you have to find like a happy medium.
So are you having more crises now than you were younger, or have you found a way to manage it to the point where it happens not too often for you?
I think I found a way to manage it where, like 2020 aside, I think I found a way to manage it. Also, I think I have a stronger reason to fight because I have my daughter and I want to be around for a very long time for her. Absolutely. So I have a stronger fight in me than I did before. But also granted, I do have a lot going on. I'm constantly busy, but a lot of the physical stress from when I was like teaching and in grad school, a lot of the physical stress is not there. So I would say that I am healthier now than I was back then. Around the time like 2016-ish, before I got married, so like 2014, 2015, 2016, those were some of the sickest years of I was in my 20s. Those were some of I was one of the worst years of my adulthood. I was really sick almost every other month just because of the physical stress of what I was doing.
So stress is a factor.
Oh yeah, stress is and for me, it's not so much physical. Like, I'll know, like, okay, I'm not going on this hike because it's too much. Or I know, okay, I did a lot today. I need to rest and chill out for the rest of the day. For me, it's not physical. It's the mental. It's the mental. And I think women in general, women are thinkers. Our minds are constantly going.
Sometimes my mind gets tired.
Yes.
You can literally be sleeping and you still feel your mind going.
Yes. So I have to find a way to just like chill out sometimes, just take a moment and relax and just leave everything, and those things that I can't fix, leave it to God.
Exactly. Exactly. He says, do what you can do and leave the rest to me. So just
Exactly.
do your part and don't kill yourself. Yep. So has sickle cell affected your social life in any way?
I would say more so when I was younger, simply because a lot of people, like, it took me a long time to accept that this is me, this is what I have. So for a very long time, I wanted to accept that, you know, I'm normal and, you know, I can do anything, and I can do anything that other people do, but it has to be modified. So for a long time, I didn't feel like my abilities were up to those who my peers. I was almost like I was dealing with sickle cell silently because I didn't talk about it. People knew, like, okay, you know, she has a disease, but they didn't know, like, the extent of it. So it definitely has. I try to be aware. I try to be aware of myself and the people I'm around, and I only put myself in a place where I feel comfortable.
Exactly.
And my friends and my family, they don't look at me like, oh my God, you know, she's the fragile one. They don't look at me like that. So it definitely has when I was younger. I think now into adulthood, not so much.
That's awesome. I think it's all about the people you surround yourself with.
Absolutely.
Because if they make you feel like you are one of them, then you don't have to struggle with who you are, you know?
Yes, and they're my support system. When I am not at my best, they're there to support me, to bring me back to the grace they know I can be.
That's awesome.
Yes, that's why I say it's so, I think not even whether you have sickle cell or not, having a support system is
key.
It's so important.
And what people don't realize is a support system doesn't have to be like multiple people. You can
at all.
just have your husband, your kids, a friend.
Absolutely.
You don't have to have 10 best friends.
I
have a support system.
Yes, exactly. I completely agree.
So let's talk about your husband for a minute.
Okay.
So what was the process like telling him that, listen, I have this disease? What was that like for you? Was that a scary moment? Was he just like, you know what, I love you and that's about it?
It's so funny. I feel like I'm going to cheat this question because my husband's a physician. So he knew. But I could go back to like when I was still dating. It was hard. It was hard. It's definitely a conversation that I have early on. Like, look, I have sickle cell. Do you have the sickle cell trait? It was very important to me to not be with, to marry, mainly have children with, with someone who has the trait, because I can only give off the trait. So if I marry, or let's say have children with someone who can also possibly or only give me the trait, our child is most likely going to have the disease. So it was very important. That's a conversation that I had early on when I was dating. And there were guys that I was really like in love with that ended up having like the sickle cell trait, and it was hard to like end those relationships. But fast forward to today, I'm so blessed to have my husband he knows about the disease. And I guess I'm really blessed in that area because he knows what I need before I know it.
That is awesome. It's amazing how you ended up with a physician. It's almost like that you needed that.
See, that it's that grace.
I'm telling you. Can I have your name? That is awesome. That is awesome. So now you have a beautiful daughter, Naomi. What was it like being pregnant and having sickle cell anemia?
So my hematologist, she laughs at me today because I would always tell her that my older sister was going to be my surrogate. For the longest time, I didn't think that I was able to even get pregnant, or that pregnancy for me was going to be so easy. And
Wow.
if I didn't miss my period when you're pregnant, you miss your period when you're pregnant, I
Mm-hmm.
would have not known that I was pregnant. So
Wow.
I conceived easily. My pregnancy was smooth for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have any sickle cell crisis while pregnant. And
Really?
the stress of being pregnant on the body can possibly trigger
Mm-hmm.
more crisis. I didn't have any of those. I mean, I had the basic pregnancy symptoms: back pain, swollen feet, whatever other pregnancy symptom. As you
Mm-hmm.
get bigger, like I had those symptoms, but she even says to this day, she was like, when you were pregnant, that was one of the healthiest times that I've seen you. Like,
Wow.
we need to get you pregnant all the time.
Well, let's get ready for the next one then.
Exactly. She's like, we need to keep you pregnant. I'm like,
Wow, that is absolutely the grace of
yeah.
God. Because
I want to say it, obviously it definitely has to do with God, but two, I was under the care, like my hematologist who is in charge of my whole treatment, and my OB, they were very on top of me. I was getting fluids every month, like fluid transfusions. I was getting blood transfusions. She wanted to make sure my blood level stayed at a certain range, which normally I could function a little bit below it. But she was like, now that you're pregnant, I want to keep you at this range. So I was doing blood transfusions throughout my pregnancy. I was getting hydration throughout my pregnancy. My OB also made sure that I saw a high risk OB, because I was considered high risk because I have a pre-existing condition. I was considered high risk. So I was seeing 2 OBs. I was under the watch of my hematologist. And I think everything together with God, it just worked out. It really
that is
just
awesome.
worked out.
That is awesome. She's definitely a blessing. So are you constantly reminded about sickle cell, or are you at a place where you just sometimes wake up and not even realize, listen, I have this disease I have to deal with today?
Maybe when I was younger, I would by younger, I mean maybe when I was an undergrad, 19, 20, 21. I would just live my life and it wouldn't feel like I had a disease that I was dealing with. But now that I'm in my early 30s, I am reminded every day because my knees.
I hear there's a lot of bone related ache.
A lot, yes. I am seeing an orthopedic doctor for my knees. Those are they're the main thing that give me problems. So I'm reminded when I wake up with aches and pains, just usual aches and pains, or people like to call them growing pains, I guess.
Right.
But I'm just experiencing it early in my early 30s. But my knees are definitely one of the things that remind me that I have this disease, because they crack and they hurt on a daily basis. With sickle cell, you have chronic fatigue. You're tired all the time. So I could drink coffee and I'll be good for a little bit, but then I'll still feel tired. And us moms, we're always tired.
On the go.
I'm dealing with chronic fatigue and being a mom. So I'm always tired. I think those are my 2 biggest things that just remind me girl, you got sickle cells, that I'm always tired and my knees ache every day.
Is your daughter aware you have a disease? She's still pretty young, but is she?
Yeah, she's 3.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say she's aware, but she does know. She's like, mommy's at the doctor, because I always FaceTime her when I'm getting my blood transfusions. Before 2020, before COVID, she would follow me. She's been there when I've had a blood transfusion. She's been there for a hydration a hydration transfusion.
Mm-hmm.
Hydration transfusions are usually about an hour and a half, so sometimes I'm able to keep her there with me.
Okay.
Transfusions are a little bit longer, so her and her dad will like pop in and like maybe bring lunch or just to see how I'm doing. She's visited me in the hospital once. So she knows mommy goes to the doctor a lot. She knows mommy goes to the doctor a lot, but does she know I have an actual disease? Like, can she say the name? No, because I've never like, I haven't like gotten to that point with her because like you said, she's still young. But I tell her like, mommy's really tired today. Let's sit down and watch TV together. Or mommy's really tired today. Let's, do something chill. But the days that I have that extra energy, I'm like, girl, we go into the park. We're going to do this.
Yeah, I do see your pictures. You are killing it on Instagram. You guys are amazing.
I try to maximize the days that I'm feeling well. Like that's very important to me. So if I have that energy, I'm going to like try and use it to do something that I know I might not be able to do later in the week.
Right. Very nice. Do you think there's a lot of focus on sickle cell in terms of like research and development, and just, people doing their thesis on that, and is there focus on it? What do you think?
I would say no, that there isn't enough focus on the disease. And if I really want to be pinpoint as to why, is because it's labeled a Black disease, because a lot of Black people, African people have the disease. We're not the only ones with the disease, but we're the majority. So for that reason, I want to say no. And it's sad.
It is.
So September is Sickle Cell Awareness Month. I was all open. All open about sickle cell. I try to be as open, but I don't want to like spam people too much on Instagram with it. So I do touch on it here and there throughout the year, but sometime on September, if you're following me, you know that's what I'm going to talk about.
And the only reason why I knew that is because I'm following you. I did not even know September is an awareness month for
Exactly. So I don't feel like there's enough. Like we all know October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I mean, and it's sad, and it's sad.
It's sad, and you're right. I mean, a lot of times people associated with the Black community, and so there isn't enough work being done on it because people feel like it doesn't benefit, a large population.
Let me not just put the blame on, because it's a Black disease. Let me also play the other side of the fence. We have our role to play too. I feel like we don't talk about it. So it's partially, it's on both ends. We don't talk about it enough. And also those who have the resources and who are in charge of doing research may not feel like it's as important because it's a Black disease.
I absolutely agree, because it's the same with ALS. I feel like there isn't a lot of information that's known about that disease, but then I do see a lot of people speaking about it. I mean, to your point, you don't see a lot of people speaking about sickle cell anemia. So if you're not doing your work, then you're not bringing enough visibility to the disease.
And it took me a long time to get to the point, because I'm guilty too. I didn't talk about it for a long time. I'll just, maybe I'll put a little hashtag in there or something like that.
In September, you put like 4 hashtags and you're like, my job is done.
Yes. So for a long time, I didn't talk about it, but I think that I needed my own personal conviction. And I think that's what you have to feel your own personal conviction. And I received that conviction after I had my daughter, because when I got pregnant, I had such anxiety. I was like, oh my goodness, I'm going to be on bed rest. I'm going to be this and that and that. And none of that happened. But in the process, I was researching. I was looking up, pregnancy and sickle cell. I was checking YouTube. I was checking Instagram, and nothing.
Nothing.
And I'm like, there's no way I'm the first woman who's pregnant with sickle cell. And I couldn't find anything. And I'm like, why? It's because people don't speak up enough.
And maybe that's an opportunity for you to jump on and just, provide people with that kind of information. Because
Oh,
to your
definitely.
point, when somebody has it, they don't know what the experience is like when you're pregnant. And I'm sure they go on the internet fishing for that kind of information.
Yeah,
So
I sound very a very little. I remember just reading this article, and all it said was symptoms of sickle cell can be heightened when pregnant. It was
that
literally
doesn't
like
quite
two
help.
sentences. Yes, it was literally like 2 sentences. I was like, oh, okay.
Not enough. Not enough. You talked about blood transfusions earlier on. And I remember when my brother would have his crisis, that was one of the things he absolutely disliked getting, blood transfusions. And he always said, because I don't know where the blood is coming from. And sometimes in Ghana, it was to the point where he needed the blood so quickly that it wasn't, I don't know if it was tested or not, and it was just
Yeah.
a matter of he had to get the blood to keep him going. How do you feel about the blood transfusions?
So I do have those moments where I think about that, but I try my best to not focus on the negative, because you can fall down this rabbit hole of just negative thinking and it'll just take you to a place you don't want to be.
Exactly.
So I just have to put my trust in the medical professionals that they know what they're doing. I don't like receiving blood transfusions, but I know it's something I have to receive to keep going and to be the best version of myself physically. The blood transfusions help, definitely. So if I'm in crisis, or if I'm just not feel, how you just kind of not feel like yourself, maybe I feel like I'm getting sick, I'll call my doctor, and it's usually because my terminologies, that's usually when my hemoglobin is low, and I know I need a blood transfusion.
Got it. So before we wrap up, what are some words of encouragement that you would give somebody who has the disease and has not fully yet accepted who they are, or somebody who is, a caregiver for somebody who has the sickle cell disease? What would your words of encouragement be?
Well, for the caregivers, I would definitely say to be strong. You have to be strong for your child. You have to be strong for the person you are caring for who has sickle cell, because they are going to look to you for that strength. My parents have always been strong. Those are my prayer warriors. They have always been strong. I would tell my mom before I got married, obviously my parents would be the ones who, let's say, would be in the emergency room with me, or they would be the ones to stay in the hospital with me. Now it's my husband. But my mom, women, we're emotional. And I would tell my mother, you can't cry, because if you cry, then that makes it okay for me to cry. So I would say you have to be strong. I've had so many people DM me or share their stories on Instagram, and it just warms my heart, because you never know, and I talked about this earlier this week, you never know who you're touching and who you're inspiring.
Exactly.
Yes, you sit here and you make videos or you talk about whatever the topic may be, but you never know, it goes into the internet, you don't really know who you're inspiring.
Exactly.
And sometimes people watch and they don't comment, and sometimes people do, but it's the ones that don't comment, you never know who you're inspiring.
Exactly.
So I say definitely you have to be strong for the kids or your spouse or whomever you're taking care of that has sickle cell. For the person who has sickle cell, who's struggling emotionally, physically, and I'm smiling today, and I try to be an upbeat person, but I have my days. I have my days where I cry and I say, God, why me? And you know what? You have to find the conviction in you. God put you on this earth for a reason, and you just have to. I'm in my 30s, and I think I just found my reason.
Oh, that's awesome.
I think I just found my reason, and
that is awesome.
It wasn't. Yes, and it wasn't easy to get here. So to that person who's struggling, take time. Don't feel like you're less than because of this disease. This disease definitely can affect you psychologically if you let it. So you have to be stronger than it.
That is, yeah, you said it perfectly.
Oh,
You said it
thank you.
perfectly. That is awesome. I know you have a blog. Can you tell us a little bit about your blog and any other things that you are involved in that you would like people to know about?
Okay. Well, yes, I have a blog. It's gracesonde.com. And on the blog, basically, you'll find all things pretty much motherhood and lifestyle. I'm sharing my journey through motherhood while balancing the chaos of life and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
I share on my blog. So I'll share like toddler fashion, marriage advice. I share sickle cell related content because that is, that's true to me and my current lifestyle. So
Mm-hmm.
I share a bunch of different things on the blog. So any mom or even just any woman, I think you'll find something on the blog that is something you can relate to, which I'm really excited. I started it in August 2020, so I'm really excited about
Oh, very nice.
there.
Very nice.
My daughter has really inspired me because I'm a makeup artist. I've done makeup for years, but since having her, just sharing my journey through motherhood, and I
That is
really
awesome.
enjoy doing that. I do it on Instagram and on my blog. So I really enjoy doing that because motherhood isn't easy. It's not a walk in the park,
No,
and it's more
sure.
so not a walk in the park. You're balancing a disease as well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, listen, my heart goes off to you. You are doing an amazing job. Like I told you right from the beginning, you do not look like what you go into. And like
Yes,
you said
thank you.
yourself, it's probably the grace of God.
It is. It definitely is. It definitely is.
It's
It
been
definitely is.
amazing sitting with you.
Thank you for having
It's
me.
been amazing sitting with you. I feel like I'm walking away learning, knowing a little more than I knew before we started the interview. We continue to build a legacy that counts, and I will be on your blog to support.
Y'all, thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
I'm supporting too.
I see that. I was just about to ask you, whose shirt are you wearing, by the way?
And I mind you, I've had this shirt for like 2 years. So who
It
knew?
looks
Like
great.
we came full circle now.
I know. That's awesome. Well, thank you for sitting with me.
Yes, I appreciate. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate this.
You're welcome. Kat, good job, Grace.
Thank you. I want to inspire.
Mhm.
So I tell people I want to be the person that someone didn't have when they were in my situation or in my
Exactly.
place.
And if it means just inspiring one person, then you've done your job.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes that's what we need to focus on, because you go, wow, I just spent 5 hours on this video and nobody liked it. But you have to remember, to your point, somebody may be watching it and may not necessarily engage, but they are being inspired.
Oh yeah, because I'm infamous for that. Sometimes I'll read something, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, that was good. That was really good. Like I needed that.
And then you just move on. Yep.
I'm guilty. I'm guilty of
We
that.
all are.
Especially if it's like a bigger like blogger or influencer or something. I'm like, they have like thousands of people liking it.
You're like, they don't care about my comments.
Exactly.
But actually you do.
They do. They really do. Like I love it when people like write inspiring things because it makes me feel like I'm doing, not for vanity's sake, but it makes me feel like, you know what, I'm doing something good.
Of course. Welcome to another segment of Building a Legacy That Counts, where we look to empower the youth. Today, I get to sit down with a lady that I think is a walking testimony, and you guys will understand why. My name is Akusika. I mixed it up. Okay.
Put it back.
Rewind. Alrighty.